Welcome to this new series where I'll be talking about some of my all-time favorite movies. And I know that perhaps sounds a little bit self-important, so maybe we should just look at it like this. A series where I'll be recommending some great movies that happen to be among my favorites. It's gonna be horror, action, comedy, drama, really a little bit of everything. So, well, let's start. First movie, an early movie by a director that made it pretty big in Hollywood, and one that's also considered to be among or perhaps the goriest movie ever made. Of course, talking about Braindead. The director is of course Peter Jackson of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit fame, but before he brought Middle-earth to the silver screen, he made a bunch of low-budget horror comedies, and well, this one's definitely my favorite. Braindead, although I'm editing from the US Blu-ray release, which is the Dead Alive, as it's known in the US, unrated version, that runs a little shorter than the uncut version I'm familiar with, but it's all good. I mean, it's the only Blu-ray release that I'm aware of. So yeah, gore. This movie has a lot of it. Like I said, it's widely regarded to be the goriest movie ever made. And, well, I love gory movies, but that's not the only reason I love this movie so much. But more on that later. First, a really quick look at the story. This crazy Sumatran rat monkey is brought to a New Zealand zoo. Then, Lionel's obsessive mother gets bitten by it and turns into a zombie. Lionel tries to keep this on the down low, but things just keep getting worse and worse. All the while he's trying to date the cute Latina from the local shop. It's also important, of course. And I love these characters. Lionel is hilarious, he's such a mama's boy. And I always enjoy these obsessive, controlling mother characters for some reason. Paquita is a cutie, Lionel's uncle is an asshole, but in a funny way. And the ass-kicking priest is just classic.
I kick ass for the Lord!
and there's more awesome quotes like that.
Your mother ate my dog!
Not all of it.
So obviously the movie doesn't take itself too seriously, like at all, and that's good. It's really just all about having fun. You know, like the scene in the park with the baby zombie. It's such an hilarious scene. Besides that, I even like the way it's shot. You know, it's very low budget, a lot of handheld camera work, but it works. And I love the soundtrack. I used this one bit for the clock transition in my first Disturbing Movies videos. I sampled from 2 tracks back when I was still making these hip-hop beats. And the theme song is among my most played songs in my iTunes library. But the biggest show stealer is, of course, the gore. And it's all practical effects. I love it. In combination with some clever editing, it works really well. It's very effective. Very well done. The lawnmower scene towards the end is definitely among the goriest stuff I've ever seen. It's classic. So yeah, all in all, out of all the movies I'll be covering during this series, this one is definitely at the top of my favorites. The only thing that I don't really care about is this subplot, I guess, about the family secret, the mom's secret. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I could have done without, but I also understand why they did add it. I mean, it explains certain things, so I guess it's okay. Second movie, a comedy from 2004, which I myself always describe as a love it or hate it situation. I love it, obviously, and well, so do many others, since it has definitely become part of modern pop culture. What is it? It's Napoleon Dynamite. The best way for me to describe this movie, or well, at least the look and feel and the tone, is by a Dutch word. Knullig. This movie is just so knullig. Which is kinda hard to translate, but I guess it's like a mixture of these words. From the opening credits, everything. The cinematography, the colors, the sets, the costumes, the music. Everything is just so knullig. I love it. Based on the no-budget short Peluca that director Jared Hess made as a student film 2 years prior, Napoleon Dynamite tells the story of Napoleon Dynamite, an awkward high school kid that, well, that's kind of the thing with this movie. There's not really a plot. We just kind of follow him along. And I guess you either find that funny or not. I literally think that almost everything he does is funny. The way he runs, the way he drinks, the way he eats. Heck, the opening shot of him waiting for the bus really makes me laugh out loud. how his glasses fall off while playing tetherball, or when his glasses get knocked off by a piece of meat his uncle throws at him, or when he has to feed their pet llama Tina. Oh man, it's hilarious. And if you're not familiar with this movie and you're like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? It's not that funny. Then perhaps this movie just isn't for you. And all I can do is try to explain why I do think it's funny. Even though that's hard since, you know, humor is very subjective. It's just, and it's so quotable. Of course you have all the
Lucky
and
gross
and
idiot.
but perhaps my favorite one is when they're trying out this time machine they've bought off the internet and then...
So are you ready?
Yeah, hold on. I forgot to put in the crystals.
I don't know. To me that's just hilarious. Towards the end you have the famous dance scene, which really isn't even one of my favorite parts, but the world seems to love it. Really, you can go on YouTube and find dozens of reenactments. It's crazy. All in all, I love this movie. I really do. I can literally watch it whenever. Put it on now, I'll watch it, gladly. A couple of years ago they announced an animated series, you know, as sort of a spin-off, and I actually got pretty excited, mostly because the whole original cast would be doing the voices. But when it came out and I saw a few episodes, it's pretty disappointing. But hey, we always have the original movie. Third movie, and this one came out when I was only 6 years old. I loved it back then as a kid, and I still do now as an adult. And over time it has become a huge franchise, and not too long ago I saw the fourth installment in cinemas, in theaters here. You've probably got it, Jurassic Park. And, well, Jurassic World, I kinda liked it, not bad. We probably all know this movie. Rich guy John Hammond, portrayed by filmmaker, actor and, well, everything, Richard Attenborough, may he rest in peace, built a park with actual dinosaurs, but after an incident it has to be checked if it's still safe. So a bunch of important people in the field are flown in to inspect the park, but then, of course, everything goes wrong. Steven Spielberg directed this movie and, well, he's just great at what he does. You have memorable characters, great development, you know, oh, I don't like kids, oh, now I do like kids. It all just works. He does a great job at not showing the dinosaurs too early on. And then when he finally does, oh man, this scene still gives me goosebumps. Partly because of the amazing score by John Williams, but also because, well, this was unseen before. This movie shows groundbreaking CGI that still holds up pretty well today. A little less in some scenes perhaps, but still, the combination of CGI where it's needed and animatronics and puppets designed by the team of the late great Stan Winston, where they could, it just works perfectly together. There's just so many awesome scenes to choose from. My favorite one with the T-Rex and the two cars. So awesome. And completely without music. Well done. But what about the kitchen scene? Or the one with Dennis Nedry and the Dilophosaurus? Or with the high voltage fence? Even though the kids could have easily just crawled through there. Still, they're all classic. It's probably partly the nostalgia talking, but I believe it's really a movie that can be enjoyed by all ages. I mean, as a kid I never even really understood the Dennis Nedry subplot, which isn't even a subplot. I mean, it sets the whole movie in motion. But I didn't care, I just loved it. The explanation of how they got the dinosaurs always seemed plausible to me, and I always wished I could have been in the place of little Timmy. Good stuff. Sure, it's a lot of nostalgia, but the movie definitely still holds up. I've never read the novel that it's based on, and I'm not even sure if I've ever seen the third part. I did enjoy the second and fourth installment, but none of them come close to the original, of course. Fourth movie, the only box office bomb by an otherwise pretty popular and successful filmmaker that tells the story of the worst filmmaker of all time. And well, that last bit probably gave it away. Of course, I'm talking about Ed Wood. And yes, this is the only movie by Tim Burton that didn't make a profit. So, why do I like it? Well, box office numbers don't really mean anything, at least not to me. I love good movies, I can appreciate bad movies, and I'm interested in the process of making a movie. And all of that we get here. It's a good movie about the making of bad movies. I love that stuff. It's a, well, both glamorized and dramatized retelling, as in, it has a lot of truth to it, but at the same time a lot is left behind or changed for the sake of the movie, of a period in the life of Ed Wood, widely regarded to be the worst director of all time. We follow him in a period where he made his 3 best known movies: the personal Glen or Glenda, the sci-fi horror movie Bride of the Monster, and his magnum opus, the worst movie ever made, Plan 9 from Outer Space. I've never been the biggest Johnny Depp fan, but his portrayal of Ed Wood is very entertaining. He's sweet and naive, but ambitious. In general, I like the cast and performances. We have Bill Murray and Patricia Arquette, and I know it's cool to make fun of Sarah Jessica Parker on the internet.
Do I really have a face like a horse?
But I really enjoyed her performance here, even though apparently it wasn't a very accurate depiction of Ed Wood's girlfriend at the time. Martin Landau, who portrayed original Dracula actor Bela Lugosi, who Ed Wood would eventually befriend, even won an Academy Award for his performance. I love how the scenes of the movies Ed Wood is making in this movie resemble the actual movies pretty well. Also, the choice to shoot the movie in black and white makes for some pretty cinematography and lighting. Good stuff. My only complaint perhaps is that some scenes might be a little too dramatized, and I wouldn't have minded if it was a little shorter. But still, in the end, we have a great movie that's funny, definitely also sad, but ultimately quite inspiring. Awesome movie.
This is the one I'll be remembered for.
Like I said, it should really be seen as a glamorized, dramatized version of Ed Life, not as a documentary. If you do want that, a documentary, you can always check out Flying Saucers Over Hollywood, the Plan 9 companion. A documentary that came out 2 years prior to Ed Wood, the movie. It's definitely a little flawed and sometimes it loses focus, but still it's a quite interesting look at Ed Wood's life and Plan 9 in particular. Fifth and final movie, a surreal fairy tale-like coming-of-age story with horror elements. That's a prime example of the Czechoslovak new wave of the 1960s. If you've guessed this one, good for you. It's Valerie and Her Week of Wonders. Definitely the least known out of these 5, but doesn't make me like it any less. Although, it will be a little hard to explain why I like this movie so much, since I barely even understand the movie itself. I mostly just appreciate this movie a lot as a piece of art. It's just a delight to look at. Especially the Criterion Blu-ray that was released some, 2 months ago? The movie looks absolutely stunning. Unfortunately, it's region locked, don't know why that's still a thing. So, I'll have to upgrade my Blu-ray player someday, you know, to a region-free one. Anyway, I'd like to think that we see this movie through the eyes of Valerie, a 13-year-old girl that's coming to grips with becoming a woman and her sexual awakening. I honestly don't really know what's exactly going on in this movie. The narrative seems to not be making a lot of sense, if any, so there's not really a reason for me to try and explain it to you guys. But really, I don't even care. I just think that it's a beautiful movie. The cinematography, the pastel color palettes, the locations, everything. In a way, it all works better with a surreal fairy tale-like story rather than a traditional narrative. And then you have the music. Oh, how I love the soundtrack. I actually listen to it quite often. And it plays quite a prominent role in the movie, I'd say. It all just fits perfectly. Perhaps it's all getting a little too pretentious for some, and I can perfectly understand it if someone wouldn't like this. My girlfriend hated it. When the end screen appeared, she stood up screaming, "Finally!" And that's after the already short running time of only 75 minutes. Which, in my opinion though, is definitely long enough. I can only watch a movie with no traditional narrative for so long. But hey, the 75 minutes that it does run, I appreciate like every second of it. Am I weird or silly for liking a movie that I don't even really understand? I don't think so. Either way, don't really care. Sure, it's a very different movie than the other 4, and unlike, for example, a Napoleon Dynamite, I'm not always in the mood to watch this one, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm like in love with the look and feel of this movie. And that brings us to the end of this video. Please let me know in the comments if you like this idea for a new series, because I've already have enough movies waiting for at least 4 more videos about my favorite movies. So yeah, let me know, and in the meantime, have a nice day. What's this? Yo.